What if I told you that the secret to preventing a multi-million-dollar software failure isn't actually writing cleaner code,
Wait, so it's not the code?
right? It's not the code. It's,
Huh.
well, it's sitting down and inventing a fictional character, which I know sounds completely insane.
Yeah, I mean, trying to solve a hard data problem with fiction, it feels counterintuitive.
It totally does. But, the research actually shows that even highly paid, incredibly experienced professionals get their audiences completely wrong. Like every single day, they're just flying blind without even realizing it.
It is a massive blind spot. Especially in highly technical fields, we tend to assume that because our data is objective, our communication of that data is just, automatically going to be objectively understood.
And that is almost never the case.
No, absolutely not.
So welcome to week 2 of your IT 226 Communication for STEM Professions course. If you're an IT or healthcare management major, today's deep dive is built specifically to set you up for success in this week's modules.
Yeah, we have a really great mission for you today. We are going to look at the art of audience analysis, how to actually measure if someone is engaging with your work, and exactly how to build a data-driven user persona for your upcoming milestone.
We are synthesizing a really interesting stack of materials for this deep dive. We've got your week 2 planning overview, the software design documents for 2 very different applications you'll be evaluating, and some really heavy-hitting academic research.
Right, including this great study on Spanish media companies and, a fascinating empirical study on YouTube audience preconceptions. That one is from the International Journal of Human Computer Studies.
It's so good. But to understand why a fictional character can save, say, an IT rollout or a healthcare initiative, we kind of have to look at why STEM professionals historically struggle with communication in the first place.
Right, it's a foundational issue.
Yeah, because when you troubleshoot a network or diagnose a patient, there is this expectation of precision. It's binary, right? The server's up or it's down, the bone is broken or it's not.
Exactly. We're trained from day one to look for empirical, visible evidence. But when you step into the realm of communication specifically, translating those technical concepts for non-experts, that precision just vanishes.
Oof, it's gone.
Right. You're no longer dealing with code or biology. You are dealing with human perception, which is just incredibly murky and highly subjective.
And, we often make it so much worse because we rely on jargon as a crutch.
Oh, absolutely. Jargon is great when you're talking to another engineer. It's an efficiency tool.
Yeah, it saves time.
Yeah.
But when you use it with the general public or even stakeholders in different departments, it just builds a wall. We assume they have this baseline of expertise that they just don't possess.
Which leads right into the classic STEM communication failure, which is treating all stakeholders as if they have the exact same motivation.
Yes. Okay, so the course materials present this great case study of this guy, Fernando. He's a data analyst.
I love the Fernando example.
Right, so Fernando, he runs the weekly analytics, builds this beautiful comprehensive report, and then he blasts that exact same email to literally every director and supervisor in the company.
And he is genuinely confused when a director later asks him for specific monthly statistics, stats that were actually already buried in those weekly reports.
Because to Fernando, the data is already there. But his supervisor has to explain that, look, a marketing director is simply not going to sift through 50 pages of your relevant data to find the 2 sales numbers he actually cares about.
Right. Fernando assumed the data speaks for itself, but data never speaks for itself. It always requires translation based on who is listening.
Which maps directly to your week 2 discussion board, by the way. This is worth 50 points, so listen up. You're asked to contrast vastly different audiences and the communication channels they require.
Yeah. Take a corporate shareholder reading an annual report versus, say, an external software user reading a quick start guide.
Their realities are entirely different. I mean, the corporate shareholder's primary motivation is return on investment. They want market stability, financial projections.
High-level strategic growth.
Yeah.
They are looking for reassurance.
Exactly. But the external user who just downloaded your software, their motivation is purely usability. They're staring at a screen, probably super frustrated, just wanting to know how to turn the thing on without breaking it.
So if you try to use the same channel or even the same tone to reach both of them, you fail on both fronts.
You totally fail. The shareholder feels like you're bogged down in the weeds, and the user feels like you're giving them a corporate sales pitch when they just wanted a tutorial.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, it makes me think of structural load testing in engineering.
Yeah.
You don't test a bridge's wind resistance by dropping a 10-ton concrete block on the deck.
Right. That wouldn't make any sense.
No. The stress test the tool you use has to match the specific structural vulnerability you're actually worried about. Trying to use the same channel for everyone is like trying to perform delicate surgery with a sledgehammer.
That is a perfect analogy. The tool has to match the tissue. Different professional roles require unique communication channels because their core motivations dictate how they process information.
Right.
So, a progress report to your fellow developers, that might be highly technical, sent over a quick Slack message because the goal is immediate iteration.
Yeah, just fix the bug and move on.
Exactly. But a presentation to a hospital administrator, that needs to be streamlined, formatted as an executive summary, and focused entirely on patient outcomes and budget. If you try to target everyone, you reach no one.
Okay, so that establishes the why. We know why we need to tailor the message. But how do we actually know if the message landed?
Well, we have to look at engagement metrics.
Right, but metrics differ wildly depending on the industry. And this brings us to that study from the Revista de Comunicación on Spanish media companies.
This study is incredibly revealing. It contrasts two vastly different approaches to digital audience engagement. On one side, you have traditional legacy media like newspapers transitioning to digital formats.
Right. And on the other side,
you have multi-channel networks, or MCNs, on YouTube.
And the YouTubers just absolutely mop the floor with the legacy media when it comes to engagement.
Oh, correct.
But what fascinated me was the reason why. The traditional media companies largely treated their digital readers as passive inventory.
Yeah, they tracked heavy users, the people who clicked a lot, mostly just to sell those numbers to advertisers. It was just treating readers as numbers.
Right, tracking engagement as a passive headcount, whereas the YouTube networks view engagement as an active feedback loop.
Exactly. They obsessively track likes, shares, comments, user-generated content, and then they actually actively shape their editorial decisions based on that data.
And they treat the audience as collaborators, not just consumers.
Yeah.
And this maps so perfectly to the software design documents you have to analyze for your milestone activity choices.
Right, so you have to choose between two apps for the milestone, One Latte and Date Nanny. Let's look at One Latte first.
Okay, so One Latte is pitched as this $2.95 a month social network. It's focused on cutting through echo chambers. It relies on this Stack Overflow style reputation ranking system where users upvote and downvote content for truthiness.
So for One Latte, their entire survival depends on those YouTube-style active engagement metrics. If users aren't utilizing the ranking system, the whole premise of the app collapses.
Yeah, their developmental roadmap is totally dictated by community participation.
Right. And then you have Date Nanny. This is a hardcore proxy server security tool written in Swift and C++ out. It's designed to isolate your data, but it requires 100% buy-in. You have to install it on every single device you own, or it's practically useless.
Okay, now I actually have to push back here a little bit.
Oh, go for it.
Well, it makes total sense that a social media app like One Latte cares about upvotes and daily active users, right?
Sure.
But if I am designing a strict proxy server like Date Nanny or, I don't know, a massive back-end healthcare management database, do I really care about engagement metrics in the same way?
That's a good question.
Because the goal of a proxy server is to be invisible. You just want it to work in the background. It feels like tracking engagement for a security tool is just vanity.
That is a completely fair pushback, and honestly, it highlights a major misconception in IT. In technical fields, engagement isn't always a like button or a retweet.
Okay, so what is it then?
Engagement is user adoption. And crucially, it is the measurement of friction. For Date Nanny, one of their key engagement metrics is challenge requests.
Oh, right. The design doc notes that if the AI filter aggressively blocks a site the user needs, the user can submit a challenge request to unblock it.
Exactly. And if those challenge requests are ignored or if they take too long to process, a highly skeptical professional audience is just going to abandon the software entirely.
They'll just bypass it.
Right. So in IT, engagement metrics are often about identifying flight risk. You use those digital audience tactics like identifying your heavy users or tracking where the most challenge requests are coming from to keep your stakeholders engaged and prevent them from actively bypassing your security measures out of frustration.
Wow, okay, that makes total sense. So metrics give us the what. We know what they're clicking, we know where they are frustrated.
But metrics still leave a massive blind spot.
Right, because they don't tell us who is clicking. If you want to fix Fernando's Sledgehammer emails, you need to understand the human being on the other side of the screen.
And that brings us to the core tool of the week, the persona.
Yes. So what exactly is a persona?
A persona is a fictional character, but it is constructed based on actual rigorous data representing your different user types. The Interaction Design Foundation actually outlines 4 distinct approaches to building them.
First, you have goal-directed personas. This is Alan Cooper's method. These are very pragmatic, focusing heavily on the user's workflow. Like, what are they functionally trying to achieve with this software?
Right. Then you have role-based personas, which are heavily data-driven and focus on the user's organizational role.
That one seems absolutely perfect for enterprise software or, like, hospital management systems.
Totally. Then there are engaging personas, championed by Lean Nielsen. This approach creates a 3D rendering of the user. It incorporates their emotions, their psychology, their background. It makes the fictional character feel incredibly real to the design team.
I love that one. And finally, you have fictional personas, which are based purely on the UX team's initial assumptions without prior research.
Yeah, and those should really only be used as rough sketches to get the conversation started because they are highly susceptible to bias.
Right, because you're just guessing at that point.
Yeah.
You know, building a good persona is essentially like building a character for a fiction novel.
How so?
Well, the person isn't real, obviously, but the constraints of their daily life must be rigorously factual. It's like building a wind tunnel for your software design.
Okay, I like this.
The software is your car, but the wind tunnel is this artificial environment you construct using exact, rigorous data. It simulates the real-world friction your software is going to face, so you can see exactly where the aerodynamics fail before you actually put it on the road.
I really like that framing. And the reason we need that wind tunnel is to combat a psychological phenomenon called self-centering bias.
Which is huge in STEM.
Massive. When an IT developer or a healthcare professional designs a system, they subconsciously assume the end user has the exact same technical expertise, patience, and worldview that they do.
We assume everyone understands our jargon because, well, we understand our jargon.
Exactly. A persona forces you to step outside of your own head. By making the user's limitations and daily context impossible to ignore, it fundamentally changes how a team communicates.
I buy the theory. I really do. But as STEM professionals, we demand data.
We need the receipts.
Exactly. Do personas actually work to break that self-centering bias? Do they correct our blind spots?
They absolutely do, and we have empirical proof from that International Journal of Human Computer Studies paper. The researchers tested this exact premise using an automatic persona generation system, or APG.
Oh, this study blew my mind. So they took 31 professionals at a major Middle Eastern airline. And these are people whose actual daily jobs involve targeting online social media audiences.
Right, these are the pros.
Yeah. So they asked them to describe their typical YouTube audience. Then they had them interact with the APG system, which generated real, data-driven personas based on the airline's actual back-end analytics.
And the results were stunning. After interacting with the data-driven personas, 80.6% of the professionals changed their preconceptions about who their audience was.
That is a huge percentage.
It really is. And furthermore, their confidence in their answers just skyrocketed when they were tested on 3 specific vectors.
Right. The WHO the user is, WHY they visit the channel, and what can be done to attract them.
Yes. Across all 3 vectors, once they had a persona to anchor their understanding, the language these professionals used became significantly more precise, more detailed, and far more accurate to the actual data.
The persona acted as a translation device between raw analytics and human empathy. But I want to dig into a really specific anomaly in that study.
Yeah.
Because, okay, 80% changed their minds, which means nearly 20% didn't.
Right.
The study explicitly mentioned attitude stubbornness. It noted that a couple of participants completely refused to change their minds about the audience, even when they were staring at a persona built on hard, undeniable analytics that proved them wrong.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
How does that happen? If a persona is built on actual analytics, why would someone just ignore it? Is it just cognitive dissonance?
Ego.
It's a mix of both, and it highlights 2 major hurdles in organizational communication. Information saliency and data resistance.
Okay, break this down for me.
Well, information saliency means that humans naturally latch onto the most prominent or visible piece of data, often at the expense of the full picture.
Oh, is this like the India and Qatar example from the study?
Precisely. The study found that 42% of the professionals correctly added India to their audience demographic list because the persona prominently featured it.
Because it was salient. Right. However, 13% mistakenly dropped Qatar from their list, even though Qatar was still a major demographic in the back-end data.
Wait, they just dropped it.
They dropped it simply because it wasn't the most salient feature in the primary persona they were looking at.
That is fascinating. It means that a poorly designed persona, or even just a poorly designed data visualization, can actually cause a communication failure, even if the underlying data is accurate, just by emphasizing the wrong thing.
Yes. And then you have data resistance, which is where the ego and attitude stubbornness come into play.
Right.
One participant in the study deliberately chose to focus on a female audience demographic, completely ignoring the hard analytics showing the audience was predominantly male.
Wait, why would they do that?
Because they had a pre-existing organizational agenda to produce more content for women. They literally retrofitted the data to match their desired reality. And this highlights a critical limitation you must remember in your careers. Personas are incredibly powerful, but they require the organizational willingness to accept data over personal bias or political agendas.
If a stakeholder is determined to push an agenda, even the most accurate persona won't magically fix their communication strategy.
Exactly. You have to be willing to listen to the data.
Which brings us perfectly to this week's milestone. This is exactly why it's so critical. We've established the theory, we've looked at the empirical proof, and now it's time to practically apply this to your immediate goal. Passing the Module 2 milestone activity.
Yes. Let's walk through exactly what you need for this 500-word assignment. You must choose either the Date Nanny or one Latte design document.
Pick one. Read it carefully.
Right. Once you identify the broad audience for that software, you have to narrow it down to one specific user and build a persona for them.
You literally have to build the character. You need a stock photo, a name, demographics, and psychographics.
And you aren't just making things up randomly. You can't just throw ingredients in a bowl. You have to follow the recipe. The course material provides 5 key variables you need to define.
Okay, let's go through.
First is age, and you need to use exact ranges. Don't use vague buckets like seniors or millennials, say 22 to 28.
Be specific. Second is location. Don't assume a default US-based audience. Is this a global rollout? Are they in a rural area with poor internet infrastructure or a high-tech urban center?
Right. Third is income. And income isn't just about what they can afford. It's a proxy for risk tolerance.
Oh, that's a great point.
If one latte is $2.95 a month, it implies a user who has disposable income and is willing to risk a few bucks on a new tech trend.
Fourth is education level. Are you writing the interface for a hospital administrator with a master's degree in public health or an entry-level data entry clerk?
And finally, religion or culture. This is vital for global software. Cultural expectations heavily influence how a user interprets color schemes, visual hierarchy, and privacy norms.
The course reading actually illustrates these variables brilliantly by contrasting 2 hypothetical users. First, they introduce Carrie. She is a 58-year-old interior designer running her own business.
Right, she's constantly traveling, scheduling everything on her iPhone on the go.
But critically, because she has a BFA in graphic design, she's actually very confident figuring out visual tech interfaces without needing a manual.
And then they contrast her with Darren. Darren is a 19-year-old intern at an emergency vehicle plant. He is working toward an associate's degree, but he grew up without a computer in the house.
Yeah. And he has this older, sluggish smartphone that he only uses for basic texting, and he gets overwhelmed and frustrated by new technology very quickly.
This completely flips the generational stereotype on its head. You would instinctively assume the 19-year-old is the tech native, and the 58-year-old needs all the hand-holding.
Right. But by defining the qualitative psychographics, their backgrounds, their education, their daily context, you realize Darren actually needs the simplified, robust interface, while Carrie can handle a more complex visual workflow.
Incorporating those psychographics is the secret sauce that brings the persona to life. That is the power of Leen Nielsen's engaging persona model. She outlines this great 10-step process covering data collection, hypothesis, acceptance, establishing numbers, descriptions, scenarios, and so on.
It's a fantastic framework.
It is. And for your milestone assignment, you want to focus on rich, jargon-free descriptions of your user. You need to identify their pain points to really maximize your grade according to the rubric.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out why they buy, not just what they buy. So if you are building a persona for Date Nanny, what specifically terrifies them about data privacy? Have they been hacked before?
Or if you choose one Latte, what specific frustration drives them away from mainstream social media? You have to clearly explain how your chosen audience aligns with the application's function.
And why those demographic levers actually matter to how you will communicate with them.
Exactly. If you follow that structure, anchoring your fictional character in those 5 rigorous data points, you will build a persona that actually functions as that wind tunnel you mentioned earlier.
It'll test your assumptions before you ever write a line of code or draft a deployment email.
Absolutely.
So let's briefly recap the journey we've taken today. We started by looking at the inherent communication hurdles in STEM, how our reliance on precision and jargon often creates a sledgehammer effect, alienating the very stakeholders we need to reach.
We then explored how different digital ecosystems track engagement, contrasting the passive metrics of legacy media with the active, collaborative feedback loops of modern digital platforms.
And we saw how measuring things like challenge requests in IT is crucial to keeping skeptical professionals engaged.
From there, we dove into the psychology of personas. We looked at empirical data proving that building a data-driven fictional character actually rewires how professionals view their audience, successfully cutting through that stubborn self-centering bias.
And finally, we broke down the exact practical steps, those demographic and psychographic variables you need to manipulate to create a compelling, useful persona for your Module 2 Milestone project.
Whether your career path takes you into managing vast hospital databases or developing the next great consumer application, understanding your audience is not some secondary soft skill.
It really isn't.
No, it is the single most important variable in your technical success. If you don't truly know who is on the other side of the screen, the elegance of your infrastructure means absolutely nothing.
Because communication isn't a clean X-ray. It's complex, it's human, and it's messy. But a well-crafted persona serves as a lens that brings all that messiness into sharp, actionable focus.
Very well said.
So as you sit down to draft your persona for this week's assignment, I want to leave you with this final, maybe slightly uncomfortable question to ponder on your own.
Oh, I like this.
When you look closely at the character you are building, ask yourself, are you truly designing a user based on the software's actual data? Or are you secretly just designing a reflection of yourself?
That's a great question to keep in mind. Good luck with Module 2, everyone.
You're going to do great. Dive in,